Few clients today. Let me put the comments on. Okay, so now I can see. If you're here, by the way, just pop hi in the comments. I was talking to a few clients today, and I was walking with my puppy. And there was this underlying theme coming up, both in the clients and also in me, and that is that so often we do things from the idea of I really need to take care of myself. I really need to take care of my feelings. I need to take care of me. I need to put me first. For me, that can often look like I shut out the rest of the world so that I can take care of me. For the client I was talking to this morning, she was actually, by the way, she's not the only one. She can easily start to take care of others, saying, yeah, but taking care of other people makes me feel good. So actually that's self-care, because that is really what I want to do right now. I was talking to another client today, and they said, well, for me, self-care really means that I actually just propose to my partner and propose to the people around me what I want to do and try to convince them to go on board, because then I have both the connection and what I want to do, and that's a win-win, and I'm practicing with that. So we all have these different so-called self-care things. Now, the interesting thing is that there is a very fine line between actual self-care and a stress response. Now, not a lot of people talk about this because it's a very thin line. Me saying taking care of myself is protecting my energy field, making certain that I'm all by myself, alone, get all the people out of my system so that I can actually start breathing again, is actually not self-care. It can be sometimes, but more often than not, it's actually a stress response. Now, this is interesting. Why? So I talked about these clients. I'll talk about them a little bit more later on. But let's start with my own example, because that's where I dare to go deeper in, because it's actually okay for clients. I don't want them to be able to recognize themselves. So if I talk about me shutting out other people to take care of myself, that is actually a need that I have. I really need to have a lot of alone time. But it can also easily be a stress response in my case, because I was raised by a very emotionally unpredictable mom. She was traumatized, not her fault by any stretch, but she couldn't really deal with a lot of emotions. She still can't around her. So then her response would, I never knew what would be coming, a hug or slap. I never knew if it would be dangerous to show how I felt, or if she would get compassionate. So then, because it was unpredictable, and by the way, my dad, same thing, it could be very unpredictable if he would actually be there for me or try to hit me in the face. Now, he never purposefully tried to hit me in the face, but accidentally he could get emotionally overwhelmed, and then that could be his response, unintentionally, but still. So there was this unpredictable environment, and until I was 7, my parents fought a lot. They had huge problems in their life. Nothing to do with me, but as a child, it made it unpredictable for me. So then, reaching out to other people when I feel a lot of things, my initial response is to shut everybody out and try to take care of myself. And this is interesting because, yes, I need a lot of time on my own. That's absolutely accurate, because I'm very highly sensitive. I feel a lot of things. Feeling other people's feelings does not help me when I need to take care of myself. So that is accurate and adequate. The other thing is, what I also need is I need a hug and people around me to hold space for me when I feel. So if I shut everybody out, I won't get that. And if I don't get that, then I'm just getting back into the trauma response of me as a young girl trying to soothe myself. don't get me wrong. I absolutely believe that we need to be able to take care of ourselves. But sometimes self-care doesn't mean alone care, if you get what I mean. Sometimes self-care means that we can actually take care of our own feelings while other people are there and in connection. We're not solitary animals, and I have to remind myself of that a lot as well. Sometimes the last thing I think I want is somebody hugging me or touching me, but it is what my system needs in order for me to really soothe my nervous system. And that can be tricky. And in business, that can be really tricky because if things upset me, instinctively, I can push people away instead of let them in. And these are things as business owners that we need to know of ourselves, because if we don't know them, then we'll just follow our intuition or we'll take care of our feelings. But these are actually the last type of the type of feelings that we should not be listening to, because they're not genuine feelings, they're trauma response or stress response. So then self-care isn't always as self-caring as we think. I was just talking about a client who starts to take care of other people because that creates a feeling of connection for her, and then that feeling of connection can give her the idea that she's actually taking care of her basic need of connecting and feeling connected. She wants to help. Now that's a little bit more clear, right? Because she feels like, no, what I need is to reach out to people. And if they need my help, I'll just take care of them and help them because then I feel connected. Now that's a little bit easier to recognize because it feels like fulfilling a need for her, but it's not really, because what she really needs is people to take care of her for a change. But she doesn't even know what that could ever look like. We're working on it, but there is a huge trauma in her past where her parents never saw her. One of her parents actually died when she was a very young age. So she is absolutely certain that nobody will ever be there for her. So if she craves connection, what she will do is she won't allow somebody to connect with her, because that's dangerous. Because every single time she allowed somebody to connect with her, they either abandoned her by dying, or abandoned her by walking away, or abandoned her because of other things. So her idea of I'm craving connection leads to her trying to connect with people, but her default way of connecting is staying in control of the connection by taking care of the other person. Now to her, that feels like she's reaching out to other people, and that feels like self-care because she craves connection, she wants people around, she feels lonely, so she's reaching out. But then the stress response part comes from the fact that she doesn't have a clue how to actually do that without taking control over that connection. Now, why is that dangerous for her business? Because easily she will dominate everybody around her. That could lead to her never opening up, being vulnerable, and missing a lot of points that she really needs to see in her business. If we work with clients and we have these empty connection cravings, like I have, like my client has, like the other clients I just talked about at the beginning of this video have, then what happens is we're accidentally projecting our unfilled needs and our trauma responses onto other people, covering it up as self-care. And that's pretty damaging. Not so much in the moment, because you know what? How bad is it really to take care of somebody? That's not really bad. How bad is it to take care of myself on my own? That's not a huge problem. But in the end it is, because in the end it's keeping that trauma cycle in the loop. And that means that I'm still in those incidents, we're still not living our full potential. We're still not doing what it is that we should be doing here. And I was talking to somebody this afternoon, and he said, yeah, but then my business is all about me and my energy and who I am. Wasn't my business supposed to be being present for other people? And that's where it gets interesting, because yes, your business is supposed to have you be present for other people. You share who you are and what you're about and your energy so that other people can benefit from that in any way you want. And then, if you're not taking care of yourself, what is it that you're actually bringing to the world? And that's the fine line. Because if you're not actually taking care of yourself, but just pretending to, and I'm putting pretending into brackets because you're not purposefully pretending, right? It's an accidental, and it's not intentionally the thing you're trying to do. But if you're reacting from trauma response instead of responding from being present, then your clients are not getting your true energy. And that is actually keeping both of you stuck together. And that can either lead to an empty feeling of satisfaction, or the feeling of, well, you know what, in the end we're all on our own anyway, or they won't really feel where you are. And the interesting thing is, these very fine lines are what make the difference between whether we really trust somebody and we really feel like they will show up for us and be there for us, no matter whether it's a baker, a shoe salesman, an insurance guy, or a coach. It doesn't really matter, right? We want to feel seen. We want to feel trusted. We want to feel connection, because that connection is what makes the difference. People don't buy stuff, well, not in this Western part of the world, because they need more stuff. It's the last thing we need. We don't need stuff. We might need food, but there's plenty of that in this part of the world. What we need is connection. What we need is to feel better about who we are. What we need is to know that it's okay to be alive. What we need is to be validated. And there is no better validation than connecting with somebody who doesn't need any of that, because they know who they are and they feel safe inside. Do we always have to be able to do that? I don't know. But what we do is we have to feel our own responsibility to do that. I make mistakes in that place. I think everybody does. That's okay, as long as we own those mistakes. I am not perfect by any stretch when it comes to any of this. I have trauma response like everybody. But are you willing to call yourself, or to see it in yourself, and to take the responsibility of actually saying, oh, wow, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Hey, I'm sorry I made you feel that way. Hey, it's okay. I'm here. Are you willing to look at what happens inside of you? Not to blame yourself, not to try to make it go away, but to say, hey, that part of me is also part of me. And I can deal with that. Somebody else doesn't have to. That's important. There is a huge difference between not apologizing for who you are and actually taking responsibility for these systems that we all have, versus trying to cover them up under the color of self-care, saying, well, you know what, that's just who I am. I don't have to apologize for who I am. Because no, you don't have to apologize for who you are. But the only way to never do that again is to actually love every part of who you are, including your traumatized parts. I didn't know where I wanted to go with the story today. I guess this is where I needed to go. And there's an interesting thing that I saw in my puppy actually today, because he's 15 weeks old. I think he'll be 16 weeks this coming Monday, maybe 15. I lost track of count. But he's really young, right? So I can see the imprint happening while I'm here with him. And what I see with that puppy is exactly the same thing as we can see with kids, except we acknowledge it. Well, I acknowledged it less when my kids were small, and that is that they're overwhelmed in an instant. Then they have high adrenaline and cortisol levels. The body takes 2 to 6 days to decrease those levels again. If we don't allow those levels to fully break down, then all these things that are overstressing will just stack on top of each other. And then we'll create a dog that's restless, that doesn't feel safe, that doesn't trust you, and that either covers that up by freezing, by fighting, or by fleeing. So he'll just be stressed, afraid, or high energy. Now, puppies are supposed to be high energy, but that's a playful kind of high energy. A puppy who's stressed might look like he's playing, but he's not really. In reality, he's just trying to get rid of that cortisol level. But then there's impression on impression on impression on impression. While he's trying to diminish his cortisol levels, he's being over-traumatized all the friggin' time. If that happens too much, then that settles in to his system, like, okay, this is probably the way the world works. And then what we're actually doing, instead of training him how to behave, we're training him a kind of a character that we accept. Like, okay, this is probably just the dog that I have. And we call that, well, that's just how he responds. Now with a puppy, you can think that's cute and we can work on it. This is the exact same thing society's doing to you. So when I say I need a lot of time on my own, I mean it. That doesn't mean that I don't also need connection to break through that. When my puppy tries to diminish his cortisol levels, he cannot do that on his own. He needs to do that in connection. So I need to help him do that, either by stroking him, or by calming down my own nervous system, or by allowing him to chew, by giving him safety so that he can sleep. Safety in his case meaning fences around him so he can actually settle down. And we need these things. Now, if we want to cope with our own stress patterns, we need to know those kinds of needs. We need connection, we need safety, we need some way, some effective way of actually coping with the stress hormones in our body. And for a puppy, that's chewing. For us, that's probably not chewing. It's probably hugging. It's probably hugging without crossing boundaries. So really good hugs where there is nothing the other person wants from you, where you can actually feel safe to feel everything that's going on so that it can leave your body. Those kinds of things are real needs. And sometimes we don't come up with these. And sometimes they're the last thing we think we want. But they are the things that our body's craving. If we as business owners don't acknowledge these things, and we don't work on these things, and we don't carefully understand what they mean, then our business is just going to re-traumatize ourselves over and over and over and over again. And then we're just going to say, well, you know what? I just want to make more money. And I just want to have less connection with people. I just want to make myself in a place in my business where I can choose, where I can create time freedom. Why? Because the money freedom and the time freedom will allow us to back off. Whereas our business could have taught us to deal with these stress and these trauma responses in a very healthy way if you would learn to actually listen to this. Now, coming Monday, I'm doing a masterclass just about this. If you want to learn about that, put your name in the comment and I will make certain that I sign you up. I just want you to think about these things. The world is in a trauma response right now. It's fighting from stress response to stress response. What we need to do is we need to take care of our own systems so that our businesses actually become a place of health, a place where our customers can connect with us in a way so that their system actually creates more health through working with you. That's not a joke, by the way. When I enter a business of healthy business owner, that calms my nervous system. That is what your customers are really buying from you. They're really buying from you is a place to breathe, is a place to feel okay about the world, is a place to feel safe, is a place to feel like the world's actually okay, that we're actually doing well here. That's what you're offering. And the more you can be the example of that, so the more selfish, if you want to put it that way, you allow yourself to be, the more you're actually doing for the world. If you resonate with any of this, please comment on the post so that we can have a conversation. I hope you have a wonderful day today, and I'll be back tomorrow. Bye.